It's cool when we get glimpses of heaven, isn't it? When we just get to kind of bathe in this presence just a little bit. Man, that's an awesome song. We've been waiting to do that one, and yeah, it's good. It's good. Well, hey, my name's Tim. What's yours? All right, good to meet you. Glad to have you. I'm the lead pastor here, and I tell you what, I've missed you guys. Last week I was sick, and I'm still getting over it. My energy's about 70%, so appreciate your prayers as my throat is sore right now. So I'm just going to preach all I got. I'm going to give it all to you, okay? We are in a series called Connect the Dots here at New Hope, and we're connecting the dots of what it means to be a disciple in community. What does it mean to live in community together, to be connected, to be relationally connected, to get to know each other? Because God had a vision for what the church was to look like. He has a word for us on what it means to actually do life together and be in relationship with one another. And so we're going to be tearing down some barriers. We're going to be building some bridges for relationship. And I'm going to talk about a few of those here in just a minute. But those of you who haven't been here at New Hope, you don't know what we're doing or what we're talking about this year, we're focusing 2016 and we're calling it the year of community. It's the year for us to get connected to one another in relationship with each other, to get a glimpse of what actually forever is going to look like. We're supposed to have glimpses of heaven here on this broken earth, and we're supposed to bring heaven to earth, and the way we do that is being together out there, not on an hour slot on a Sunday morning. It's so much more than that. So we are talking about what it means to be a true disciple. A disciple isn't somebody who just attends for an hour on Sunday. That's just a church attender. You're just going to church, right? And that phrase, just to be honest with you, it's just wrong, all right? Because you don't go to church, you are the church. The church is the people. The church is all of us. And so you come to this building and then you're sent from this building. This is just a gathering of us Christians. That's why we call these worship gatherings. They're not worship services. We're not here to serve you in the aspect of a consumer receiving Christian goods and services. We're here just to gather together what God's already been doing in us all week long. Some theology to what we say and why we say it. So we want you to be not just an attender, not just a Christian. We want you to be a disciple, right? And we define what it means to be a disciple as this. A disciple of Christ is somebody who's surrendered to God, somebody who's changed by the Holy Spirit, and somebody who's living as Jesus. Now we've said this every single week, and now I want you to read it with me out loud just to remind us. What is a disciple? It's somebody who is surrendered to God. Good. Changed by the Holy Spirit. And living as Jesus. Woo! That's what it means to be a disciple. It's somebody who's saying, you know what? Not just 1 hour on Sunday, but here's my life, God. Here's every day, every moment. I'm surrendering to you. Why? Because you have something better than I can ever create in my own power. You have my life, right? And it's surrendering to God, being changed by the Holy Spirit, which is being changed, putting off the old self, and we keep saying this, which is the part of us that's being functionally controlled by our sin nature, right? It's that part of us that actually leads into selfishness and those desires, and it's putting that off and putting on the real self, really the true self, the new self, which is in the image of Christ himself. It's being made more and more into the image of Christ himself, and that's what the Holy Spirit is doing in you as a Christ follower. He's putting off the old self, putting on the new. He's changing you. And then to live as Jesus. And we learned that means not like, I got to work real hard and do really good, and I got to check my list off of what Jesus did so I can do the same things. It's different than that, because it's not a checklist of a to-do so I can perform. It's actually a to-be list. To be connected to Christ himself. To be continually united with the God who loves you and abiding in him, because when you abide and are connected to him, then the fruit naturally comes. He is the nourishment. He is the food. He is everything you need to produce the fruit of righteousness, right? The fruit of the Spirit in our life. Stay connected to him. That's what living as Jesus looks like. This is good, right? Yes. Yeah, okay. 4 of you. This is good, right? Yeah. That's what we're learning. But now we're taking this to the next level, which is saying we weren't meant to do this on our own. We weren't meant to just live siloed lives by ourselves. We were wired and designed by God, our Creator, to live in community. And so how do we live as a disciple connected together, connecting the dots in relationship? Why? Well, when life goes sideways, you don't need another good sermon. You need a what? A someone. You need someone with you. Someone to walk alongside of you, someone to encourage you, someone to help you see and understand new truth in God's word, to put off that old thing so that you can live in that new truth and put on who God has called you to be. You need somebody beside you encouraging you, pulling you up, and you need to be the one who's walking alongside others, encouraging them and pulling them up. Life is meant to be lived together. And so my desire for 2016 is that everyone in the life of this church would have a someone that they're walking alongside with, learning what this disciple thing looks like. And so that you're not doing it alone. Is that good? Yes. The answer is yes. All right, that's good. That's good. Now, we see in the New Testament, in the book of Acts, when God kicked this whole thing off that now we call the church. It wasn't called the church. It was called the gathering back then. It was just called those crazy Christ followers, right? When they were gathering together, we see a description of what it looked like. They were eating together. They were hanging out together. They were praying with one another. They were listening to teaching and receiving teaching together, all together. Then they were doing life together and sharing with one another when there was need. And there was this one part of this passage in Acts that's like, what? Right? It said all the believers were together and had everything in common. Like everything they had in common. And that just sounds a little weird because not everybody is the same. And we learn that this isn't like all of us becoming clones of each other and wear this, look like this, talk like this. Like, that's not what it means. It means that if you have Jesus in common, you have everything in common. That there will always be opportunities to have things that divide us, but then again, there will always be opportunity to bring unity in all things. We have the choice. We choose. Are we going to bring unity? Or are we going to bring division? At work, at school, at home, wherever we are. It's your choice. What are you going to bring? And so for us as disciples, if we're going to say, you know what, you have Jesus, I have Jesus, we've got everything in common. And I'm going to choose to not look at the things that would divide us, but let's look at the things that unify us, that make us the body, that make us one together. That's what it means. We have Jesus, we got everything in common. Now we're learning about, well, what does this really look like? Like, how do we practically do life together? And we're looking through the New Testament of the passage that I call the one another's of the Bible. Throughout the New Testament, there's times where Paul or the other authors, or even in the Gospels, like they talk about this is how you should treat each other. Love one another, accept one another, like all these one another's. And we want to learn what that looks like and what that means and be challenged by it a little bit, okay? The first week we talked about hospitality, right? That the hospitality, we're called to show hospitality to one another without grumbling is the passage, which means that hospitality isn't just opening your doors to the people you already like so you can have fun. Anybody can do that. Biblical hospitality goes way deeper. It's actually showing brotherly love and kindness to those that you would even consider a stranger, somebody you don't even know. It's inviting into friendship those that you don't even know well yet. That's what biblical hospitality looks like. And we're going to have opportunities to show that with other people in this body and even outside of this body. Hospitality. Then last week, I was grateful to have Pastor Dave. He's the Northwestern campus lead pastor, and he's preaching this morning. We're preaching the same sermons every week. It's awesome that he was able to jump in and travel last week for me because I was sick. He introduced what we were talking about. The Bible says we have to bear with one another. What? Like, no, if we're all Christians, we should all get along and be happy, right? Like, how many of you have not gotten along with somebody this week? You just kind of had an argument, a little, like, okay, today on your way in here, like, right? If we're all honest, like, we don't all get along all the time. Inside the church, outside the church, it doesn't matter. We're humans, and we're all broken, we're all sinners, and you get a bunch of sinners in the same room together. We have to learn how to bear with one another. How do we not like judge the other people because they're wrong and they have the worst attitude? And how do we look over the offenses in that relationship and choose love, right? Choose humility. and choose to bring unity even when there's tension? How do you walk through those? So if you missed any of these messages, you can go on our YouTube channel, you can go on our website, you can watch them there, you can grab DVDs we burn every single week. Get caught back up, because this is good stuff. This is challenging stuff. And so this morning, I'm going to be talking about another one another, which is the passage that tells us that we are to serve one another. What does that mean, to serve others? What does that look like? And before you start formulating your mind where my sermon's going, you have no idea, all right? So don't even try to think, oh, he's going to preach on this, going to say this. You don't even know, so don't even go there yet, all right? Excuse me. I'll grab that in a second. So we're learning the one another's. Before I get to the sermon, I'm going to do something that I've never done before on a Sunday morning, and I'm going to throw some of you for a loop here in just a moment. Excuse me. I don't know what that's from. And I'm going to make you talk to each other. What? Like, you got to be kidding me. But before I do that, I want to cast some vision. I want you to understand some vision for this year, and really coming up in a few weeks. With 2016 being the year of community, we are taking some very intentional steps on creating bridges for us to connect relationally. Some of those are happening on Sunday mornings, and I'll explain that in a moment. And then some of it's happening in people's homes in small groups, and I'll talk about that in a moment. You've been hearing me talk about like rearranging the auditorium, like what we've done in this room, and kind of move the seats out a little bit and creating smaller sections. And we're starting under the radar what we call sections and having section hosts, meaning there's couples who are intentionally in this worship gathering to get to know you and to help you get to know other people that you sit around every single week and to start to have conversations. And they're under the radar, so I'm not going to make them raise their hand. You're going to get to know who they are in the weeks to come, and so that you're going to say, oh, I know who they are and what they're doing. They're trying to help us get to know each other. The next step beyond that is each section, because we've kind of broken the auditorium up into 4 sections. So we got kind of 1 and 2 in this front part, and 3 and 4, y'all in the back. And we're going to be doing carry-in meals throughout the month, depending on the section that you sit in. So I'm going to ask you to pick a section to sit in and claim it, okay? Y'all already do that. Y'all are just already, habitual sitters. You just find your spot, and it's like, we're comfortable here. And if somebody moves and you come in late, and you're like, where did they go? I don't know where they went. They disappeared, right? Like I know how y'all work. So I already know you're kind of sitting in the same spots you always do. So we're going to get on a rotation that we're going to have different sections, have carry-ins, about 40 or 50 people at a time, where you're going to bring food, and you're going to have kids run around and get to know each other. You're going to eat together and start having conversations and start to build those bridges of relationships and meet some people. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be cool. It's one thing at this campus that we haven't been able to do that Northwestern, they've done it since day one. Every month they have a carry-in. Everybody shows up, and the kids have a blast, and the parents all hang out, and they all eat together, and then they get to know one another. So we're going to do it. Is that cool? Yes. Now some of you are like, germs. That's all you're thinking with carry-in meal, but just get over it, and we'll have, squirt stuff, and you'll do this, and it'll be good. The other thing we're going to be doing in April, we're moving now deeper into small groups. Our desire is that not only do you come together here on Sundays, but you would get together with a smaller circle of people throughout the week in your homes and actually read the Bible together. That's what they did in the book of Acts. They got together, smaller circles, in their homes, ate something, and then just read the Bible together. We're just going to do that and make it simple. We're working on and working towards, in the month of April, I want to see every single person who is connected to this church in a small group. Every single one of us. Why? Because when life goes sideways, you don't need a sermon, you need a someone, right? And so I'm going to do my best to do it. But we need some people who are willing to be small group leaders. And I tell you what, I know there's a ton of untapped resources in this room right now. People who have been in church a long time, you've read the Bible forward and backwards, you've done Bible studies, maybe you do your own devotions all the time or whatever it might be, but you're not doing anything else right now. And I'm going to call you up and say, would you consider being a small group leader for us? For about an 8 to 10 week period of time, we're going to be doing something called the Community Bible Experience, where where we're going to be reading the Bible in a way we've never done it before. And it's pretty awesome because it's actually going back to the roots of the early church. We're going to read the Bible as it was written, as a book. Not like this whole like textbook full of all these numbers and chapter breaks and all this stuff. We're going to read it like it was written as letters and remove all the complicated things that always blow people. This is too, I don't understand. Like, we're going to simplify the Bible so we can read it together in community and then just ask 4 questions, the same 4 questions every single week. And so if you're willing, and even if you're not willing, I need you to be a small group leader. I need you to say, you know what? I agree with Tim, and I agree that we need to be in community, and I'm willing to even make myself a little uncomfortable to make this happen. And I tell you what, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. So if you're willing to do that or not willing to, but I'm going to make you fill out your Connect card and write on your Connect card, small group leader. And next week, we're just going to have a brief meeting, and I'll share with you what that means as we're moving into April. So we're going to be doing groups through April, May, and just the first part of June. So do it, okay? Cool? All right. Now I'm going to make you do something. I'm going to make you talk to the people around you during my sermon, okay? And now, how many introverts are in the room? We got some introverts in the room? All right. So half the introverts didn't raise their hand, right? I'm an introvert, I tell you what. And so, like, right now, I'm going to make you a little uncomfortable, but it's okay, all right? Nobody's going to hurt you. Like, we don't have a hidden lion in the room that's going to devour people. Like, none of that stuff's happening. What I want us to do with the people who you sit around, I want you to talk to them for about 5 minutes. I'm just going to take a 5-minute break in the message. And this is what I want you to do. We're building bridges of community and relationship. I want you to just share your name. I know that's complicated. I will give you a moment to remember it. And how long have you been at New Hope? Because that's a question a lot of times people don't like to ask because they're like, what if they've been here a long time and I offend them and blah, blah. So just say it. Hey, my name's so-and-so and I've been here for this long. And then what I want you to do is answer this question. What was the last thing you purchased at a store? Okay, so think about that. What's the very last thing you purchased at a store? And I want you to just share that with the group around you. Now, if it's your first time in New Hope, maybe you're like, this is freaky. I give you permission to just talk to the person you came with, okay? If you're new, don't feel like you have to run around or anything like that. Now, if you've been at New Hope a while, you're not allowed doing that, all right? So you ready? I'm giving you 5 minutes. Your mark. Get set. Stand up. You're standing up. Talk to the people you're sitting around and answer these questions. Go. Everybody survived that? Okay. Just a few shout-outs. So not all at once because I won't hear you, but what's the last thing some of y'all just bought at a store? Just light bulbs. All right, shampoo and dish soap. I heard that in the corner. I heard water. Huh? Yeah, Starbucks, okay. Anybody buy anything interesting? Starbucks at midnight. Last gathering, somebody said doe pee, and I'm like, what? Oh, you mean like deer urine. All right, that's interesting. So they're going hunting. I'm like, doe pee just sounded inappropriate and disgusting, but so thank you for doing that. Thank you for humoring me. Now here's, I give you permission to do that before and after every single worship gathering, all right? Get to know the people you sit around, because a lot of times we come in, we sit, we worship, but you don't even know the name of the people around you. So thank you for just playing that game a little bit. That's what we want to see. We want to see us getting out of our comfort zone a little bit and getting to know one another, building those relationships with each other. Now, the reason I asked you to ask the question or answer the question, what's the last thing you bought, is because a lot of times we don't realize how driven we are as a culture and even in our individual lives, driven as consumers. Like, we are told all the time that we need more and more, right? That we need more things, we need more stuff, and it's easy to get selfish when it comes to thinking about stuff and stuff we need, stuff we want, stuff we want to buy, all that kind of stuff. And the thing is, when we do that as a consumer, so often what we do, even unintentionally, is we start looking in the mirror as to what we receive, what we experience, wherever we are. What does this mean for me? And right, so we look in the mirror. I'm going to blind some of you right across here. That's what I get to look at when I'm up here. we look in the mirror, and I'm going to call it the mirror of selfishness. That when we only go through life looking at what does this mean to me? How does this, fulfill my needs? And we think of our lives as me consuming relationships, me consuming products and goods and services, me just being a consumer. We miss out on the kingdom of heaven. We miss out, and we actually, when we start living like that, we miss out on what Jesus really wants us to do as a disciple. And so I want to look at an example of this in Scripture. So if you have your Bibles, turn to Mark chapter 10. Okay, you guys got your Bibles with you? I hope you bring them with you every week, because that's what we read. That's what we study, is God's Word. So Mark chapter 10, starting in verse 35, we see an interesting exchange between Jesus and a couple of his disciples. See, in Mark 10, the disciples have already been following Jesus, and they've seen him teach. They've heard him, not just teach in the public, but now go around campfires with them and really teach them what he meant when he said these things. And they've seen Jesus do miracles and all this stuff, and they're like, wow, this is what an honor, right? To walk with Jesus and to be with him and see what he's doing. And they're starting to understand who Jesus really is, that this is God's Son, that this is the Messiah we've been waiting for. Now, in this interchange, in this exchange here in the relationship, excuse me, in Mark chapter 10, we see two of the disciples come to Jesus and ask for something. And it's pretty interesting how they ask and what they ask, all right? So let's read in Mark chapter 10, starting in verse 35. It says this, "Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee," which is a cool name, "came to him. 'Teacher,' they said, 'we want you to do for us whatever we ask.'" What? Right? What kind of... Jesus, do whatever we ask you to do. It's like genie in the lamp, right? Poof, what do you need? That's what they're asking Jesus. Does that not sound like such a conceited request, right, from the offset? Jesus, we've seen what you can do. We want you to do whatever we ask for you to do for us. Now, if I were Jesus in that moment, I would have been like, you've got to be kidding me. And I would have slapped him upside the head, right? You want me to do whatever you want. You guys are crazy. Crazy. Luckily, Jesus isn't me, and he's much better than I am. And he shows such patience and grace and says, teachable moment right now. Because then he asks them the question, what do you want me to do for you? He asked. That's okay. I mean, if you're James and John at this point, you're thinking, oh, sweet. He's gonna... What can we ask for, This is Jesus. We've seen him do that stuff. What are we going to ask for? And so this is what they ask. They replied, "Let one of us sit at your right and the other at your left in your glory." Such a small request, right? It's like, Jesus, do whatever we ask for you to do. Sure, what is it? We want shotgun in heaven. That's what they're saying. I'm raising my hand, shotgun, right? They're like, we said it first, what's going through their minds? They're probably thinking, all right, who's going to be the greatest whenever we get to eternity and Jesus is in charge of everything? We better be the first ones to ask if we can sit next to him and run and sit shotgun in heaven before other people do, because all these other guys, they're going to want it too, so they just go for it. They're just like, okay, Jesus, can we sit shotgun next to you in heaven forever in your glory? Now, if I were Jesus, I would have slapped him upside the head and said, you got to be kidding me. What? That's what you're asking? Just this small thing, like sitting with me in my glory forever in heaven, right next to me? But that's not how Jesus responds to them. See, they were thinking the same way that we think so often. I want what I want. And I think I'm due what I deserve, which is always better things. I'm a consumer, right? They were clearly looking in the mirror of selfishness, weren't they? I deserve to sit next to Jesus in heaven. You want the other side? All right, let's go talk to him, What can I get out of this? The window of selfishness, right? Jesus responds in such an awesome way. We're going to skip down to verse 42. Because now he's realizing this probably isn't just a thought that these two guys have. There's probably This is a thought that all of these guys are having, like who's the most important and who has the closest relationship with me? And so he answers them by painting a picture. In verse 42, Jesus called them together and said, this is what he said, "You know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them." He's painting a picture. He's saying, guys, you know how all this operates, right? You understand how government works. You understand how like the lords or the rulers of the Gentiles, they show their power by exercising it over those that don't have the power. He's painting a picture saying, you guys understand this, right? Like, and I think he paints that picture to us today too, right? You guys understand that. Those who are in the ultimate authority, whether it be governmental or whatever it might be, organizational, or they show their power and then exercise their power by controlling those who are underneath them. That is what power is. That's what greatness is, and that's what it looks like. Then he shows us what heaven is like. And it's different. It's different than this. Verse 43 says, "Not so with you." At this point, if I were James and John, I'd be feeling a little sheepish, right? A little like, oh, we just getting schooled, right? He's like, that's what you think power is when those who are in charge control those who are not. He says, not so with you. That's not how God's kingdom works. That's not how you're supposed to operate, to vie for position, to exercise authority. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. It says, for even the Son of Man, he's talking about himself, Jesus, did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus flips their world upside down. He's like, you think this is what it means to lead and to have great power. But the kingdom of heaven, that's not how it operates. The kingdom of heaven, greatness is shown when you serve others. Greatness is shown when you love others unselfishly. It's different, isn't it? Than what this world says it should be. See, our assumption is in this kingdom principle. Our assumption is that great power is shown when it is exerted on others. And we even rejoice when it happens when it's somebody that we like, right? This is a crazy political season right now, is it not? Like, I don't know if you guys remember last fall when I was doing this series called Thriving in Babylon, get ready, because this is going to be one of the craziest political seasons ever. Anybody remember me saying that? I don't know if I'm a prophet or what the deal is, but like it is messed up. I mean, like right now, America's giving the finger to the government and doing whatever they want, right? Like this is kind of a crazy revolution, kind of social commentary. I'm not a political guy, just so you know. I'm not up here and I'm not saying, vote for blah, blah, blah. I don't do that crap. But here's what I do know, is that the world is actually celebrating those that show an ungodly kingdom-like attitude towards the exertion of power. And I would say that's dangerous. It's dangerous. Why? Because when I see the kingdom of heaven, I see it full of love and forgiveness and grace, and I see it full of power. That when that power is fully exerted in all of its greatness, is done with the most amount of love that could ever exist. So just a little side comment for me is that you guys have choices. We live in America. We've got some freedoms. I would say use them as close as you can to represent the kingdom of God as you can. That's all I'm saying. Because when I see the kingdom of God, when I see the kingdom of heaven, when I see Jesus say, you think it looks like this, you think power is exerted whenever others are controlled by it, but honestly, the most powerful thing is to serve others. When Jesus showed his most powerful moment on this planet, the thing that changed everything forever, it was also the most humiliating moment of his existence. Think about it. Pure love changes everything when it serves those around you, right? When you choose to love, you start to look like the kingdom of heaven. You start to do what the one another's of serving each other are. The kingdom of heaven is different than the kingdom of this world. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to what? Serve. And to give his life as a ransom for many. I would say for many that don't even understand what he did for them. So what does this mean for you and me, all right? Let's get some nuts and bolts stuff happening, right? Let's get some practical stuff. The book of Galatians, if you want to go there, you can. This is kind of the key passage when we're talking about this idea of kingdom, love, and serving one another, and what real power and greatness is. Galatians 5, starting in verse 13, this is what we're told as one of the one another's in the body. You, my brothers and sisters, we were called to be free, right? That's good. We were called to be truly free. But do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, what are we supposed to do? Serve one another humbly in love. Through Christ, we are given freedom. Actually, we're given ultimate freedom. Like freedom from sin and death. We're given freedom to live and truly live. In all those freedoms, he's like, don't use that freedom just to indulge yourself, right? Don't use the freedoms that you've been given just to look in the mirror of selfishness. Like, what does this mean for me? And cool, I'm forgiven, and I've done this, and I've experienced this, and my church this, and I. And even in that, we think we're being like more godly, but we're not. We're actually being godless in that moment because we're being selfish. We're focusing our religion on what we experience and indulging ourselves rather than serving one another humbly in love. Serving one another humbly in love. In verse 14, he says this, for the entire law, all of it, all the good stuff in the law, all the things you're supposed to do, all that stuff, it's fulfilled in keeping this one command. Love your neighbor as yourself. I love how Jesus he simplifies it all. It's like, this is it. This is it. He says, stop looking in the mirror of selfishness. Stop treating this life as if it's all about you and all about what you consume and all about what you experience and all about what it is for you. And instead of looking in the mirror, start looking through the window of humility. The window that, even though it's a little dirty and hazy, but the window that says, you know what, it's not about me. And it never really has been about me, even though I thought it was. I need to start loving and serving those around me if I really want to look like the kingdom of heaven. If that's really what we're supposed to do as a disciple, is to bring the kingdom of heaven to this broken world, we got to flip the mirror into a window and start looking, who is it that we need to be serving? And how do we need to be living? See, I want you to read this with me. What are we supposed to do? Love your neighbor as yourself. That was half-hearted. Let's try one more time. Love your neighbor as yourself. We're supposed to love others, right? As we would want to receive that love, but not because we want to receive it, because we want to give it. Because we want to love others. This whole idea of love, this word love, it's this Greek word agape. It's this selfless love. Even self-sacrificing love. Like I'm willing to put myself out there and even be uncomfortable so that I can really love and serve somebody. And in this passage in 1 Corinthians, it's the love chapter, right? And so many Christians just use it for weddings. It's like, oh, it's a pretty wedding. Or maybe, you're a really good Christian, use it on Valentine's Day in your card, like love is patient, love is kind. You're like, but you are not, whatever. I just don't do that. Excuse me. That love, this idea of love and humility are inseparable when it comes to God, God's kingdom, and what he calls us to do and how he calls us to live. This passage in 1 Corinthians 13, maybe you've heard it before. It describes love this way. Love is patient. Love is kind. It doesn't envy. It does not boast. It's not proud. It's not It doesn't dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. Not what I can get out of this. It's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but what does it do? It rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. And the next verse says, love never fails, right? Love is awesome. The idea of love and humility are inseparable in God's kingdom. You can't truly love somebody and be selfish. They don't go together. It's oil and water. And so you can't serve somebody without loving them, because then you're probably serving them for what you get out of it. Love and humility always go hand in hand. A good test to see where you're at with this is to replace your name for the word love in this passage. And ask yourself, does that really describe me? Tim is patient. Tim is kind. He doesn't envy. He doesn't boast. He's not proud. He doesn't dishonor others. He's not self-seeking, right? Like, if you put your name in there, does that describe you? It's a good spiritual test there. Because I know too many Christians that think they're great and they're loving, but really deep down inside, they're covering up the fact that they think it's still all about them. I'll leave the awkward silence there for a moment. For us to wrestle with it. For us to wrestle with this. And I'm preaching to myself, guys. Love and humility are inseparable in God's kingdom. Meaning, you can't love and not be humble, and humility will always produce love. They are always together in Scripture. They're always together in God's kingdom, and to serve one another means to love in humility. It's to look through the window instead of the mirror. It's to flip the mirror into a window and say, you know what? I'm here to serve. I'm here to be like Christ. Wherever I'm at, whether it's at school with my classmates that I walk next to, I'm in class with, that share a locker next to me, and even if I don't like them, I have a choice to make. Am I going to choose to love and serve them? It's in the halls of your workplace. It's inside the four walls of your own home, right? This is the kingdom of heaven. This is serving one another. This agape love, this self-sacrificing love. We have to learn how to turn the mirror of selfishness into the window of humility and start seeing others the way Christ does, who paid the ultimate price so that they could have real life. That's what it means to serve others. See, it's different than you thought it was going to be, didn't you? Did you think it was going to be like, so sign up and serve today at church and do this and do that and blah, blah, blah. This isn't a to-do list. This is a to-be list. Let's be full of love. Let's be self-sacrificing. Let's see people through Jesus' eyes. God, we need this. We need this as a church. We need this individually, personally. We need to be testing ourselves in this. How are we really living life? Not what we think we're doing, but like really what are we doing? Because that's what matters. It doesn't matter who we think we are or what other people see us as. It really matters what we do, because that's really who we are. And so God, challenge us to stop looking in the mirror and to start looking through the window, to get out of our comfort zones and to start building relationships and serving others and doing all the things that look like the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, God. Even the decisions we make, the people we support publicly or even just privately. Like, God, we need to honor you in these choices. So I would ask you the question, this. What would your workplace look like if you started living like that? If you started being more loving and if you started serving those around you, what would your school look like if there was a group of students that said, you know what, we're going to look a little different than the rest of this school? What would your home look like if all of a sudden everybody in your house started just loving and serving each other and stopped looking in the mirror and started looking through the window? I think our community would look a lot different, even if just this church body we start really owning and living this. That's power. That's greatness. And it's exerted through love. So the litmus test question for you is, how much do you love others? And how often do you serve others? That's the spiritual maturity test. It doesn't have to do anything with what you know, how many Bible verses you've memorized, how often you've come on a Sunday morning. Jesus said, they will know my people by their love. Let's learn about this. Let's stand together, church. We're going to sing a song, and this is not a normal ending to a Sunday. I'm going to ask the prayer team, if you're part of the prayer team, to be available. And if you need prayer about anything, whether it's physical health issues or whether it's something you're wrestling with in relationships or whether you just feel convicted, you can pray with one of the prayer team members up here. But we're going to sing a song that we sang earlier called Open Up the Heavens. Why? Because I want God to open up the heavens so that we can really experience what the heavens feel like and look like. I want God to open up the heavens so we can understand what kind of love needs to be just shown and how we can serve others, because that's what the kingdom of heaven is like. And so we're going to end this morning proclaiming something, owning something, and being challenged by these questions and letting God speak to us and proclaiming, you know what, God? Bring it. Bring it. I dare you to pray that. God, bring it. Bring heaven here and use me to do it. Bring love here and let me be the most loving. Help me to serve the way you served. And help me to stop being selfish and become selfless. God, we need this in our community. We need this in our country. We need this in our own lives. So open up the heavens, God. Challenge us as we respond and as we sing and as we need more of you right now. In Christ's name, let's go after God. Let's sing. Proclaim it. Amen.